It's April 4th, 2020. This is No Sports, day 23, and if my teeth look a little bit purple, it is because I've been drinking some wine tonight. This time around, I want to discuss the inevitable return of sports, which has kind of turned into a front burner type conversation over this weekend because a couple key things have happened. It started with President Trump, who had a phone call meeting with the respective commissioners of Major League Baseball, the NBA, NFL, NHL, and Major League Soccer. In that chat, he said he wants full crowds to return to stadiums and arenas across the U.S. by the start of football season in August or September, which is quite the opposite take of California's Governor Gavin Newsom, who said in a press conference televised he is not expecting that in this state by any means at this point. Now, I'm going to be honest here. It was about March 15th or so when I had the personal realization I didn't think sports would return until June or July at best. This was a couple days after March 11th, the night that Tom Hanks announced he had tested positive for the coronavirus. The NBA shut down its season, and the United States announced its travel ban to Europe. Basically, the night we all realized this was pretty serious. Again, June or July is what I thought a couple days later. And as we're seeing developments here of how this pandemic is progressing nationwide and worldwide, I don't think that projection of June or July has moved any closer. In fact, if anything, I think it's moving farther away from right now as we go. But also this, it's so hard for anybody to have a grasp on a really good projection or to interpret the trajectory the right way and kind of know how things are going to play out. Literally nobody knows this. The whole story of the COVID-19 pandemic is kind of like a story. In fact, it's actually kind of like a Netflix series that everybody wants to binge on. The only problem is a couple episodes are out, and that's it. The rest of the episodes aren't even written yet. So everybody wants to be up to speed and be ahead of the speed, but we're all kind of waiting and watching to see how this unfolds, even though we're all trying to get through those episodes and chapters as soon as possible. So there's a lot of unknown, but there's also some things we very much do know. We do know that sports eventually are going to return. Now, at first, will it be in a similar and familiar capacity? Probably not. I'll dive into that in just a second. But we know sports will eventually come back. We also know that sports will serve a great purpose in boosting morale. It'll boost the economy. It'll boost entertainment of people who are isolated in their homes, if that's still the case. It's going to give people across this country and across the world a much greater sense of normality, just to be able to turn on the television and watch what they usually watch, for as crazy as the world might be outside of that sporting event. We also know, though, that sports is a big business with a lot of inherent risks. These professional leagues, if they start up, they cannot afford to fail. We also recognize that these sporting leagues are nothing without their people. I'm talking people in terms of the athletes, the coaches, the front office, all of the business side of sports, but also you, the fans. Sports needs its people. Sports needs its people healthy. And that's why no sport, in my eyes, can truly return until it is fully assured that players will be safe and healthy and that they will not actually be complicating the problem by spreading the coronavirus. Now, there's way more to that about fans and management and trainers and everybody else. And just hold on for just a second. But sports can't resume in any fashion if the competitors themselves are not safe and are definitely not expanding the problem. Athletes, though, have it kind of going against them. in the fact that they are people who travel 2 to 3 times per week. When they're on the road, they need to eat somewhere, likely at restaurants, which right now many of them are closed. They are very much exposed to each other, not just on your team, but the team you're playing against. They high-five each other. They spit a ton. They're definitely not able to socially distance themselves on a baseball field, a football field, a hockey rink, a basketball court. It is impossible to operate the way they need to and spread themselves out like we all are right now in the real world. They also work with trainers, equipment staff, coaches. There's just a lot of hands in locker rooms, on the field, dugouts, benches, team plane, team bus. There's just so much going on there to complicate this matter. But again, that is the first barrier. Can any of this be done with the players and essential staff only? If you can answer yes to that, you have a lot more options. But if you can't answer yes to that, you're kind of only left with the option we're at right now, and that is having sports continue suspended. But if you can do it, if you can get the athletes to compete, now, this could be in multiple locations, this could be in their normal home locations of stadiums and arenas, this could involve neutral sites only, like literally quarantining all the players and people you need in one place, which poses an interesting challenge and problem. Are you really going to separate them from their families for many, many months at a time? That's a difficult dilemma. We can talk about that in a later time. But you can do this. If the players can compete, you can do this with fans in stadiums, or you can do it with no fans in stadiums, or like I said before, you can do this all at neutral sites. And if you do that, you can also eliminate the element and the variable of moving locations, which again could definitely pose a lot of complications and problems as it relates to health, as it relates to transmitting potentially the coronavirus. So there's a lot going on here. But again, it's players first, teams first, essential personnel first. If that can happen, you have a lot more things out there. But going back to the fan aspect of it, fans in stadiums, that's always been the nature of sports. What is a sporting event if nobody is there to actually witness it? Before television and radio broadcasts, that was the only way to consume sports, to actually be there. But to me right now, here in 2020, having sports back is worth it in a safe way, in every way, so long as you can do this and be safe. But even if it means having no fans there, it's worth it, I think. Now, you're going to hear from athletes who will tell you it's not the same. I don't get motivated the same way. The atmosphere, the energy. Yeah, I realize that. But I also realize that virtually nothing is the same in life right now. We're all having to put up with things, deal with things, get around things. That's kind of how this looks to be headed, to be quite frank. So this might be the only way to pull it off for right now. If you can be safe, and you have to do it with no fans, maybe just to start. I don't know how many months this would take. I don't know when people are going to feel wholesale comfortable going back to stadiums and arenas. I know the president is talking about opening it up, and that's what some people would like to see. Are fans even comfortable with that? I think some will be having different mindsets and reservations about an atmosphere like that for a certain time. But it's crazy to me to think that crowds versus no crowds could be a potential in holding up sports from returning if they could all be healthy. The players and essential personnel could be healthy. If that's what holds sports up from returning, then I really don't understand the situation. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. This has been No Sports, Day 23.